Oh, hello, good.
Yeah, it works.
Okay, welcome everyone to Full Stack JavaScript. How many people like JavaScript? Really? Come on. No one likes JavaScript. All right, so I am Grant Shipley, and in this talk today, we're going to talk about how you can use JavaScript for your entire stack, and that includes mobile, right? And so we're going to walk through some code. It's going to be probably half slides and half code, okay, and demos and things of that nature. So just, what we're going to cover today is first just the introduction, an overview of JavaScript, how you move this JavaScript code out to production, and then do some demos. For those that don't know me, I am Grant Shipley. I am a senior manager of cloud at Red Hat, primarily work on OpenShift. I've been at Red Hat about 10 years. I've been in management for the last 8, probably. But, I still like to code. I started Red Hat as a principal software engineer. And, the way I stayed technical, being a people manager, was developing software in the evenings and working on open source projects. Just because I didn't want to be a complete tool. You guys know what that means? A manager, just a stupid manager, right? So I do still code. Before I came to Red Hat, I worked at a company called Novell. When they had the SUSE Linux operating system, I worked on the installer for that. We called it Oracle Open Enterprise Server, which is kind of like Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So I worked on that. And before that, I worked at Caldera, or SCO. We started the Linux lawsuits. Does anyone remember those a long time ago? That was me. I'm sorry. Yeah. But, I found Jesus and I left Caldera and went to work on real open source projects after that. But I was a Java developer for 15 years in my career. I've also been a huge mobile developer. I have a lot of apps out on the App Store, stuff like that. Big database guy, primarily relational databases. I'd say I spent most of my time with Oracle, actually, at Red Hat even. Red Hat still runs everything on Oracle, oddly enough. Not just the financial systems, but all of the databases that power like www.redhat.com are all Oracle databases, and it drives me insane, but that's what it is. All right, so who are you? I assume that you care about JavaScript. I assume you're developers. Is anyone not a developer? All right, out. Get out. No, just joking. All right, so, my assumptions are you care about writing JavaScript applications, or you have an interest in JavaScript. You want to learn how to create scalable JavaScript applications, and you want to learn how to use JavaScript and only JavaScript for an entire application. Well, thank you, Merrick. All right, we got some T-shirts to give away. Excellent. So, now that I have prizes, we can play a game. All right? So, the game is going to be called JavaScript Trivia. And just raise your hand if you think you know the answer. In what year was JavaScript created?
1998.
No. Close.
1995.
Yes, come on down and grab your prize. Come on down. JavaScript was created in 10 days in 1995 by a company called Netscape. All right, what was JavaScript's original name? Yep. No. What is it? Nope. Anyone know? Buzzer's going to buzz. All right, it was Mocha. And then they changed its name to LiveScript, and then they changed its name to JavaScript. And why did they change the name to JavaScript? Yeah?
Popularity of Java.
That's exactly right, popularity of Java. And being a Java developer, that pissed me off so bad. Because I would tell people I'm a Java developer, and they would think that I was a JavaScript guy and wrote like flashing under construction GIF images on web pages and the letter going into the mailbox. Do you guys remember these animated GIFs a long time ago? But they did just change the name to JavaScript because Java was popular and they wanted to ride on the coattails of Java. All right, what else we got here? When was jQuery released? jQuery's probably the most popular. Yep. No. Close. Nope.
5.
Nope. No, what'd you say?
5.
Yep, 2005. That is correct. Yeah, that's right. If you don't get it right the first 12 times, just keep guessing. All right, when was node.js announced? What year? No, close. No, wrong way. 9. There you go. All right, what else we got here? When was MongoDB released? The first version.
2012.
Nope.
11.
Nope, but right direction. Nope.
9.
Yes. All right, that's all the trivia that I have. Excuse me. Oh, here's one. When MongoDB was created, what was the company's? Why did they create it? Why did they need MongoDB?
To store JSON.
That's what the database is for, but why did the company actually create it? Nope. Man, I'm sorry. So MongoDB was created because the company called Tengen competed with OpenShift. They were a platform as a service company. And they found that the hardest thing in platform as a service and cloud computing is creating scalable databases and getting databases to scale with replica sets and shards and all that stuff. So they decided to write their own, and they called it MongoDB. And the engineers who were working on it enjoyed working on the database more than the platform as a service, and they switched their entire company overnight to just be a database company. But they were originally a platform as a service cloud company. Okay, now that I asked that, I'll ask one other question. Why was Docker created?
Because they are kind of running out of money.
Could be running out of money.
And they wanted to kind of put down their stuff to everybody say that what they're doing with this thing, and then from .node they move to.
Yep, that's right. But you already have a T-shirt. So whoever else raised their hand can come down and grab the T-shirt. Docker, which everyone's talking about now, it was actually created from another platform as a service company that competed with OpenShift called .cloud was their company name. And they created their own container system, and they had more fun on Docker, I guess. They saw more value in, kind of owning this new container system. So they abandoned .cloud, the platform as a service, to just focus on the container. All right. So JavaScript. So people just hate it, right? For no reason. Like, I don't know why they hate it. But, I Googled JavaScript and hate, and there are entire fan clubs devoted to hating JavaScript. Here's a Facebook group that I found that is entirely devoted to bashing on JavaScript. Now, the Cookie Monster, I don't know if you guys have that here, but he's like, what the hell is this crap, right? And that's what it was perceived as. And here's JavaScript book, and then on the left is a book about the good parts of JavaScript, right? And some of the reasons people hate JavaScript, and I fell into this crowd as well. I just thought it was a toy language. You can't do anything with it other than making, animated, flashy GIF images and stuff like that, or doing form validation. And people thought even with validation, it's only good for client-side validation, and you shouldn't be doing client-side validation anyway. All validation should be happening on the server because someone could just overwrite the JavaScript code and do whatever they want. And people considered it not a real programming language. Okay, especially people who went to university to get a computer science degree. They just didn't consider it a real language and probably don't still. But JavaScript has made a huge, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's gained a lot in popularity over the last couple of years, primarily because of jQuery for web developers, and then node.js for what a lot of people consider real developers, right? For whatever reason, developers, software engineers, and I include myself in this wrong way of thinking, didn't consider like the people who are writing the web pages to be developers, right? And that's kind of still the same today in a lot of people's minds. But I started using JavaScript, and I actually started to love it, oddly enough. I hated it for so long, and that's primarily because I just didn't understand it. I'm pretty old now. I even have gray hair in my teenage-looking beard that I'm trying to grow here. And, the older I get, the more I realize when someone says they hate something, technology-wise, it's probably just because they don't understand it, right? And so I took time to actually use JavaScript, and it's actually a very good language to write in, and it's fun to code in. And there are a gazillion libraries out there to do anything you want to do. You can do it in JavaScript. NPM, which is the node, what does it actually stand for? Node packaging module or something like that? There's NPMs for anything, right? A lot of software is just shipping as NPMs, and you want to use it, you just do an NPM install in the package. And you can use JavaScript for most jobs that you need to do, whether it's client or server-side or database or mobile. And so I really started using JavaScript because I was a big iOS developer. When the iPhone first came out, I started writing mobile applications. And then what happened was Google announced Android. And so instead of just writing for iPhone, you had to write to the Android platform as well. And iPhone's Objective-C and Android's Java. And so I didn't want to take the time to actually port code between two. So I started looking for these cross-platform mobile application development kits. And so I'm going to just run through what I use, and I've been pretty successful with it. Like I said, I have many apps out in the App Store using this stack. And so I call it my JavaScript A-Team. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the A-Team or not, but it's like a famous 80s trashy TV show that we always make fun of and watch. But that's B.A. Raucus, by the way, in case you were wondering. So my A team, when I start with the mobile app, is Accelerator Titanium. Has anyone heard of Titanium before? A few people. Now I'm hesitant to talk about Titanium now, and this may be the last time that I talk about it, because I work at Red Hat, obviously, and we have acquired Feed Henry, which is a great platform, and I've just started playing with that. And so I probably will be replacing a lot of my stuff with Feed Henry down the road. But right now I've been using Accelerator. It's an Eclipse-based IDE. It integrates with OpenShift, which is the project I work on. I can build, test, and deploy mobile apps from the single IDE. And what's interesting about Accelerator's Titanium versus Cordova or PhoneGap is this runs native on the device. It's not a web view just executing JavaScript. It's actually running natively on the device. So it acts and feels like a native application. It has an integrated debugger. So if I attach my phone, even though I'm writing in JavaScript, I can set breakpoints in the IDE and step through it while it's running on the device, right? Because it is getting packaged as a native app. All right. Most applications today use some sort of data store to store user data, obviously. And so what I've been using is MongoDB. MongoDB, if you're not familiar with it, is a JSON or JSON document store, okay? And all of the functions are implemented in JavaScript, and you can write JavaScript to the database itself, and I'll show you that. Like if you do a db.find command to list everything in a collection, if you leave off the parentheses, it'll actually show you the JavaScript code that MongoDB is executing to run the query, and I'll show you guys that. It is open source. It was created by that company 10gen I told you about earlier. 10gen no longer exists. They changed their name to MongoDB to focus entirely just on the database. It's very high performant. It's easy to scale. You can write data to it, and sometimes it'll actually get written. It's a bad Mongo joke, but oh well. Yeah, that's one of the big things that people say about Mongo is it's not consistent. All right. I also use node.js. Node.js is very popular now. It's kind of going up the hype cycle. It's easy to code in once you understand it, though, right? If you're coming from Java or something that's not event-based, it's a little bit tricky. You get into what's called callback hell, if you've heard about that, because your code just executes, and if you make a call, the next line of code, if you make a network request on this line of code and then do something on the following line, it does not wait for that network request to come back. It just continues to execute your code. So you have to implement callbacks and things like that. And I'll show you that in the code. All right, so I'm going to show you a demo now of a stupid application that I wrote. So I'm going to exit out. And I'm going to open up my IDE. And I'm going to show you the app. And this is running on an iOS or iPhone 5 device. Oh, awesome. What did I do? Line 28. Did I screw something up? Am I on the network, maybe? Unrecognized token. I must have fat-fingered something. Let's see here. Dev.conf. Line 28. Someone help me out here. I'm blind or something?
I think your network has disconnected, and that means that you need to relog in there. So you are served an HTML file.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wasn't it
Yeah, I thought it said unexpected token. Must have been the response or something, huh? Yeah. This is Linux 2015. Okay. Now we're cooking. Hopefully. So I'm going to run this app. Maybe it'll work this time. Okay. So this is a mobile application that does nothing except call a REST API call written in node.js to receive text messages. Okay? Does that make sense? So I'm using a service called Twilio that gives me a number. And when you text that number, it makes a call out to my node.js application to store the text message in MongoDB and then displays it on the mobile app. I'll show you all the code for this. But if you can text an international number, pull out your phones and text something to this number. Oh, can you see it? And keep it clean. No bad words, please. Unless you think it's funny, then I would also enjoy it. That is the full number. 919. Someone said, hello, Grant. So the problem here is I'm not able to scrape. Who sent this one? Merrick, did you send this one? So he has a check number, and so I'm not able to scrape the city for some reason from Czech. But if Diane sends me a message, it should say like Vancouver or something like that, wherever her number is located.
I'm being cheap and trying to do it through Skype, so it's not working.
Oh, it's not working? That's someone else testing that Shipley demo. But anyway, so what's actually happening is when that text message gets sent, it's going over to my Twilio server in the States, and I'll show you what's actually happening with that. So here's my telephone number, and I have callbacks. When I get a message, it's calling into this devconf-onpaths.rhcloud.com REST messages endpoint, and it's passing the entire message body of the SMS over to me. And then if I SSH into my application, devconf, okay, I'm going to use Mongo, and I'm going to say show DBs, and I'm going to use devconf, and I'm going to do db.get collection names. Oops. And it's SMS messages, so I can say db.smsmessages.find to list them all. And there they are. Hey, from YouTube. From Akron, Ohio. Who sent that?
Someone from YouTube.
Oh, is someone watching this? Is it streamed or something? Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, Akron is a city in Ohio in the States, so someone is saying hey from there. All right, so this is MongoDB, right? And so I take these messages that I get with my REST endpoint, and I'm saving them to Mongo inside the Node.js code. Now, what I wanted to show you in Mongo is I did this db.smsmessages.find, right, to list those. If I take off these parentheses, and you can do this for any MongoDB operation, it shows you the JavaScript source code that's getting executed to run a query. Okay, and so if you're having problems with something in MongoDB, you can just take a look at the code and figure out how the query is actually running to pull the results. And I forgot to also start this on Android. So we'll do that now. And the Android emulator is starting up. So we have roughly about 2.5 hours of free time right now until this starts. And I don't know why it's so freaking slow, but okay. So while that's loading, we'll take a look at the source code for this. Hopefully, you should never open a text editor without knowing what is going to be shown first. I don't even know what this is, but it looks like passwords or something. So let me open. Yeah, Mr. Akron, Ohio is going to hacksaw me. Where's my dev? I got too many projects in here. Okay, so here's my node.js code. Here's my server.js, which starts the node.js server. If you're not familiar with node.js, like it actually starts its own like web server up, right? When you execute your code. I guess Apache is too cumbersome to use for some reason. I don't know. But everyone is, used to be using this framework called Express, and Express includes a lot of the packages that you would want to use to do things like REST calls. But one of the guys on my team, Ryan, is very involved in the Node.js community, and he says any true Node.js developer is no longer using Express because it's too heavyweight. And what you should actually do is combine like 1,000 different packages and include them to get what you actually need instead of including everything in Express. So it's the Node.js community is a little odd. We call them hipsters. You guys say that here, the Node.js guys. But yeah, it's crazy how fast this community moves and iterates over things. So what I'm doing is first I need to specify the IP address that my server is going to be running on. And so what's important to understand is that I'm using an environment variable for this because this is going to be running on OpenShift. Okay? And if it's not there, then we use port 8080. Then I configure my routes. I set up my Mongo. So let's look at the actual routes here. Oh, so in this I'm using Mongoose. Is anyone familiar with Mongoose?
Can you make it larger, please?
Yeah, I can try. Okay, so with this I'm using Mongoose, and it basically, when you create a model, so I have an SMS model in here somewhere. Models, SMS model. I define a model, okay? So the things I want to save is city and state and the body of the message, right? And once I have this model defined, that's it. I don't have to do anything else. Mongoose is going to actually create those REST endpoints for me, and if you do a put request, it's going to save it in the collection. So it's very simple code, right? It's just like maybe I wrote 15 lines of code to expose this REST service. Okay. All right, so let's go back to our trusty Android emulator. And we can see that, let me open the iPhone one, that the experience is a little bit different, but it's the same code base, right? And that's because when it gets compiled down to the native mobile operating system, it does things correctly for that operating system, right? So what's a good example? If I had a list on iOS or a pop-up, it's different on Android. If I have a tabbed menu at the bottom in iOS, it's actually going to be at the top on Android. And just a few different things like that to make use of native components. And you can use anything native on the platform. The mobile platform, you can make calls into it. You can also write native modules and include them in your Titanium project if you want to do something custom on the phone. Like maybe you want a a swiping photo album or something, right? And you just wanted a reusable library for that, you could write that in Objective-C or in Java and then import that module in your Titanium project and use that API. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the slides, unless you guys want to see actual code for a real project. This is a very simple one. It's just creating a view, which is the window on the device. So this would be the view. And then you just set like CSS style properties on them, right? And you set the sizes, which can get tricky because for iOS it's very simple. You know, there's this phone and that's it, right? That's the only iPhones out there. But for Android, there's probably 50 fucking different Androids in this room, all with different screen resolutions, and it's a pain. It is an absolute nightmare to develop for Android unless you're automatically sizing images and things like that based on ratios is what I traditionally do. A lot of people use pixels. All right, so then I just add an image view, and I set the image, which is this right here. If you're familiar with GUI programming, like traditional GUI development, like that none of us do anymore because everything's on the internet now, but it's very similar to that. You create objects and set event listeners on them. So it's very much like traditional GUI development, whether that's in Java or C++ or whatever, MFC, whatever you're using. All right. And then the code just makes a network request to this REST endpoint. And it just returns the JSON back. And then I display that on the browser. Very, very easy. So let's go back to the slides now. And I want to talk a little bit more about mobile development and how you can actually start to make money with your full stack JavaScript applications, right? Because that's what we all care about is, you know, dying with the most amount of money we can, right? So, you know, it's really hard to make money as an independent mobile developer because companies are spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on a single application. Are you guys familiar with the Super Bowl? You know what I'm talking about? It's the most expensive sporting event to buy commercials on. Like we're talking, what is it, like $10 million per commercial or something like that? It's insane. And during the Super Bowl, I saw no less than 6 commercials for mobile applications, right? And so how can we, as independent developers, compete with these people like Electronic Arts and Ubisoft? And it's very hard. And so what I have found works for me is not creating my own stuff, okay? I go out to companies with an established brand and an established product, and I say, you don't have a mobile application. You need one. And the first one I did that for was a company called Signing Time. They teach sign language to infants and toddlers. And I guess all these studies were done that toddlers can communicate, children can communicate using signs before they can talk, right? So it's not for like the hearing impaired, it's to actually teach young kids how to do it. And they had shows on television like Nickelodeon and PBS and these television networks. And so I just called them up. I was like, hey, you need a mobile app. I'll write it for you. And I won't even charge you for it, right? I'll do it for free. The only thing is, every time we sell it, I get to keep half the money, and I'll send you half the money, right? And they agreed to it, and they had all of the assets already done, all the videos, graphics, images, everything. I just had to collect it and make it into an application. And I released that app probably 5.5 years ago. I haven't touched the code. I looked at this the other day in over 4 years. Haven't even touched the code. And I still get a check every month from Apple for that application, right? But I got lucky with that one. It was on like the commercials and, you know, it was featured in the App Store and stuff like that. But what's funny about that application is it was iPhone only. I never ported it to Android just because I didn't want to learn the Android Java programming model, right? But I took Appcelerator's Titanium and I wrote that application, or I ported that application to run on both iPhone and Android in a weekend using a cross-platform tool. Never released it, but oh well. Okay, another thing that I tried was contract work. So my first application was this signing time application that I still get money from. My second one was contract work. I'm like, I'm never going to make money on this signing time application. I made like $600 last month on it. It's never going to pay me back for the time. So I'm just going to charge someone $15,000 to write their application. And that's what I did. The application was called Landscaper's Companion, and it's still on the App Store. And oddly enough, it was also a featured application and is one of the top selling apps in the category. And I took $15,000 for that when that guy is probably still making tons of money off of this application. And so that was a bad decision. I never do contract work. I just don't. It's not worth it to me. I want something that's going to have potential to have recurring revenue. Freemium model. This is interesting. No one wants to pay for applications. They want it to be free. So the idea I had, my wife, she loves to paint the house, the inside of the house, different color every month. I don't know. She's fucking crazy. But she does this, right? She repaints our house all the time. And in the States, we have these little paint palette cards that you hold up to choose your color. And I was like, well, that's stupid. We should have an app for this. And this was like 5 years ago. And so what I did is I approached some of the paint companies, and I'm like, hey, you need your app on the App Store that shows your color palettes. People can put them up on their wall, slide through the colors, find them, and then we'll point them to the closest hardware store to buy your paint. But we can't charge for it. No one's going to pay for that. And so what I proposed was that we give it away for free, and every time someone downloads it, they give me 5 cents or something like that, right? And so it encourages people to download it, and they want to get their brand out there, but I'm still, making money on the back end. And lastly is pay per download. This is where you charge money. You're not going to be successful charging 99 cents for an application. If it's a real application that provides a lot of value, people will be willing to pay for it. If you are developing, and I know way too much about mobile demographics, but you know who's most willing to pay for things on mobile devices? It's females. They outspend males, I think like 7-1 on their purchases. And what do you think they're buying? What? Not shopping things. They're buying games. They're buying games. Females love to play mobile games. Like not the intense games, but like the I call them session games where you just sit down and you like Candy Crush, right? That's a popular one. Females are also more willing to pay for applications targeted at kids. Like that's a home run, right? If you write an application targeted at kids and you deploy it on the Nook and the Kindle Fire, that's where they're buying those applications. Because they're at home with their kids and they have their Kindle Fire or their Nook to read books and they purchase applications on that. Android developers don't ever buy anything, okay? Like they're the cheapest people in the world, right? So Android should always be your like last target market. Release on the iPhone first and then Android after that, okay? And I think I'm about out of time. I had a lot more slides. But, I just wanted to talk a little bit about, how you can be successful in mobile development. You still can. Like the guy who wrote Flappy Bird, made $20 billion in a weekend, right? But, that's an edge case. But, if you write enough applications and you're making like, $300 to $400 a month on each one, if you have 20 of them, that's not bad. That's pretty good, right? Make pretty good money on that. And it's easy to do. And the point of this talk is everyone in this room knows JavaScript and has the skills and the ability to develop these mobile applications using something like Titanium. You don't have to learn anything new. Just use what you already know. Okay? All right, any questions? About out of time. I didn't even get to talk about OpenShift. What? Whatever. Okay. Any questions? Feed Henry is the company we bought. They're a mobile backend as a service. So if you want to, they have APIs that you can call to store like user information, text messages, push notifications, things like that. No. Right. Yeah. Kind of. Titanium has a mobile backend as a service as well. Yeah. All right. Anything else? All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.